Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by SurveyMonkey. Go to try.surveymonkey.com/twist and sign up for a free trial. And MailChimp. Manage lists with up to 2,000 subscribers and send 12,000 emails per month for free with MailChimp.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. This is This Week in Startups. Today, a guest who needs no introduction, Kevin Rose, serial entrepreneur, angel investor, Digg, Revision 3, mi.lk. You name it, the kid's done it. He's a legend in the business and a very good friend. It's going to be an amazing episode. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. We're here at CNET Studios. Thanks to my friends at CNET for letting me borrow their studios this week while I'm in San Francisco, taping episodes of This Week in Startups. We've had an amazing run, lots of great people, and today is no exception. On the program, an old friend and serial entrepreneur, somebody who really doesn't need an introduction. Everybody knows who Kevin Rose is. He created Digg, one of the top 100 sites on the internet, also Revision 3 and host of Diggnation, one of the top 3 or 4 podcasts on the internet, I'm certain, and one of the early ones. And now he's doing mi.lk, which has released a really clever app called Oink that we're going to talk about today. But before I get into that, let me tell you about, well, you know how the show works. We have only white label sponsors.
You know one other thing about Kevin, though, that you didn't mention?
What did I mention?
That to me is actually more impressive than all those.
What did I... Is there something...
Yeah, he does angel investing. He does a surprisingly damn good job of angel investing.
I said angel investor, didn't I? In the intro.
But what I mean is the people I know that he's invested in,
yeah.
When I asked him, who's your favorite angel investor that you have?
Oh, I see.
I'll always mention Kevin's product.
Kevin is...
Kevin, every time.
That's awesome.
Kevin brings a lot to the table as an angel investor.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
Well, I'll tell you something. Now that I've done it, we've done angel investing about the same amount of time. Like 2 years we both started. We actually both did Gowalla together. You introduced me to those guys. Thanks for losing money for me.
Hey, you have Facebook stock now.
I have Facebook stock, which is a good thing. I'm sure we'll wind up whole in that case. But yeah, this is a great adventure. Who cares? But we both started around the same time, and I think people look at us in a similar way, which is...
handsome.
Yes, correct. Yes. But in all seriousness... We're sort of the new angel investors on the block. There's the existing ones, but the existing ones never had any kind of a platform, Twitter, Facebook followers, Google Plus followers, podcasts, to talk about it. Like, when you invest in something, it becomes news.
Well, we have the platform to get the word out there. Yeah, absolutely.
You bring the first couple of thousand people to
and
the
I think
platform.
That's part of what kind of gives us that little foot in the door to get into some of these investments. You know, I mean, there's so many angels that are out there right now competing for the same deals. Like, you know how it is. Oftentimes, like, people say, "Oh, we're oversubscribed. We filled up our round." And then, you know, you go in there and you say, "Well, is there anything I can do here?" And sometimes you create a video for them. You plug them on one of your shows. You tweet out a link. And all of a sudden, they've got an additional, 10, 20, 30,000 people using their product.
It's material.
Yeah, for sure.
It's much more material. I mean, in a world where funding is so freely available, which when you and I were coming up as entrepreneurs, I mean, when you started, I guess, in the 2002, 2003 timeframe, what day? 2004?
2004 was when
2004,
I started,
I mean, there wasn't an angel. You couldn't find an angel investor. The FBI couldn't find angel investors. No one was investing money at that time.
It's funny. The only
like Mark Cuban.
Reid Hoffman was.
Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah,
it's a really short list.
There wasn't a whole lot of angels.
No,
Ron Conway was
still, but he wasn't high profile like he is now.
Yeah,
he was sort of under the radar. It was nobody.
Yeah, we had a very small
Mark Andreessen.
Yeah, Mark Andreessen, was he doing stuff? Yeah, that's right.
He was doing small things.
I'm trying to think of the angels that we had in Digg, and it was Mark Andreessen, Reid Hoffman, Ron Conway.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know if there was anybody else. Mike Maples.
Mike Maples was still, yeah, he was.
He just got started. He was with Ron Conway, just got started.
Right. It's amazing. It's a totally different world right now. Hey, but before we get into this, what will certainly be a great interview, let me pause for the cause and let everybody know about MailChimp. You know, we have an interesting program here, Kevin. We only whitelist the advertisers. You have to be a product that either Tyler or actually both Tyler and I enjoy using, and one of those is MailChimp. You ever use MailChimp?
That's what we use for our Milk newsletter.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you
go.
go.
And I also use TinyLetter, which they acquired.
Ah, right. Two great products. MailChimp, very elegant. You're a product guy. Beautiful product, elegant, simple, easy to use, and the free program is always free. 2,000 subscribers, 12,000 emails per month, and you can do all kinds of interesting things. Like, do you know you can segment your list by cloud score?
I did not know that.
Yes.
No way.
So now, let's say you want to know on the Milk newsletter who's 50 or above, because you're going to be in LA and you want to meet 10 users and just have dinner with your 10 best users
crazy.
And try to have like a little Yelp Elite kind of thing for. That's where you would start. Oh, let me cut the list, slice and dice. And you can do Facebook content syncing now and open rates. You know that. You can track clicks.
Yeah, I did the AB recently. The AB
did you
test.
do AB?
Yeah, so you
for
basically,
headlines.
you give it 2 different headlines. It sends out like 1,000 or 2,000 test emails, tells you which one is better, and then automatically selects that one and then mails the rest out.
Wow, so you don't even have to do that second phase. You just
sit back and watch, and then it emails you and says, yeah, option 2 was better, and then boom, we sent it all
Wow.
out. Yeah, it's cool.
That is just so slick. So anyway, MailChimp, thank you so much for sponsoring the program. We couldn't do what we do here, which is tell great entrepreneurial stories without your support. And if you don't have an email list, my belief is everybody, even individuals, should have email lists just to keep people up to date on what they're doing. It is the original social network and the most powerful way to keep in touch with people. They may change social networks, but they're not changing their email address. Your email address hasn't changed in 10 years, I bet.
Not since Gmail came out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But I have a feeling your social network of choice has changed multiple times.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Hey, thank you, MailChimp, for sponsoring the program. Kevin, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah, since
Almost like
2005, early 2005.
Early
or so.
2005. We met when I was doing Weblogs Inc., and you were just starting Digg. And where to be? It's like it's such
you invited me out for sushi.
Yeah.
We were in LA.
LA, because we both lived in LA at the
Yeah.
time. And I invited you for sushi. I was living in a crummy little apartment in that complex above the sushi place.
Yeah.
Hadn't sold Weblogs Inc. yet. I was broke. You were kind of broke too, I think.
Yeah, I was broke too.
Two broke ass entrepreneurs.
Yeah, you wanted to buy Digg.
I wanted to buy Digg.
That's right.
I had seen in the logs on Engadget that Digg would send 1,000 users. And I said, this thing's up and coming. It's in the top 10 referrers. And I reached out to you and said, hey, let's get sushi. And what did I offer you, like $1 million or something?
Yeah, something like that, like one, something like that, 1, 2 or something like that.
I was like, let me give you like $1 million. And I had told Mark Cuban, give me some cash so I can give this kid some cash and equity. And I really wanted you to join the Weblogs Inc. team.
Yeah.
This would be an incredible thing. But of course, you went off and did your own thing, which was the right thing to do. But you showed me Digg 2.0.
That's right. We hadn't launched it yet. I remember I had the design and I brought my laptop in or something.
Brought your laptop and it was
like,
just
check this out.
Wow, this is hot. But you started your career. What was your start of your career? Like you were like the bit character on one of the tech TV shows.
Yeah. I mean, I studied computer science in school.
Right.
Never really used any of that.
Yeah.
Worked at the Nevada test site for a while out in the middle of the desert doing government stuff, which was fun. And then moved to San Francisco during the first Web 1.0 boom in 2000. Just did some kind of BS kind of work at a couple different startups, helping market their products and whatnot.
Yeah.
Buy banner ads. And then, started at Tech TV in 2002.
Right. And were you originally on air, or were you like an intern researcher type person?
I was Leo Laporte's kind of like tech guy that would install Linux for him and do all the behind the scenes kind of stuff for setting up all the demos.
And then once in a while, he'd pull you on air.
Yeah, every once in a while I'd go on air, and then I found a security vulnerability in Windows that he had me come on air for the first time to demo.
Yeah.
And then after that, they were just like, can you do any crazy segments? And I did hacking the Xbox and all these crazy mods and stuff.
Right.
And so...
Stuff on Slashdot kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Every time we got an article on Slashdot, I got one on there, they'd be so stoked. So it'd drive a ton of traffic. And
at the time, you weren't entrepreneurial in your thinking.
Well, I had started a couple little projects. I did this one little system utilities, because there's this great little system resources monitor that was on Linux that wasn't on Windows, where it would show you kind of like little graphs of your CPU load and your disk usage and stuff like that. And so I hired a guy out of Russia on Elance to build that for me, and I created his shareware and launched it on CNET. I actually
Download.com.
Download.com. I paid to have it submitted on there.
Wow.
And so then I paid like a couple $1,000s to have that made, and then I made like $10,000. I was like, wow, this software thing is pretty cool.
Wow, you're like, you can invest money and get more back.
right, get more back. It's amazing.
This is an incredible
I'm
innovation.
going to build software. This is so cool. Yeah.
And then the idea for Digg, if I remember correctly, Delicious played a role, and I guess Slashdot, and was it Corrosion was the other one?
Mac Rumors was a big one.
Right.
Because they had a front page of news, and they had this page 2 that was like the up-and-coming news.
Right.
Slashdot was obviously huge. All the users submitted content, but the editors chose which ones made the front page.
Right.
Yeah. And Delicious, absolutely. Joshua Schachter and everything he's done.
But when he did Delicious, he did not want there to be a popular page. It was almost begrudgingly that he showed the popular. But he didn't want it to become Digg. He wanted honest, clean data, not voting.
Right. And his was, you got to think that, when I was looking at Delicious, I thought to myself, like, here's a great resource for things that people are bookmarking. And you got to think that the use case is a little bit different, right? Because when you're bookmarking something, you're saying, I want to come back to that at a later point in time.
Right.
This is like more of a utility kind of thing, right? And in news, it's very timely. So like you have an article that comes in and you read it and you either like it or you don't like it, but you don't want to come back and read that same article you already read. Like there's no reason to read, about Obama's healthcare again. I already read that 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like I saw a little hole there that wasn't being filled,
A window.
Yeah.
And you decide you'll do Digg. You get the domain name.
$1,300, $12.99 or something like that.
You Elance again, the first version, if I remember correctly.
I'd found a developer that I had previously worked with on Elance. And so I just contacted him directly and said, like, hey, how much to build this prototype? I sent him a document that was like 5 pages deep, explaining how it would function, and with some designs and mock-ups, and he started working on that.
And at this point, I think that's when you realize, hey, I got a chance to be an actual entrepreneur here. You were watching Delicious, you were watching Flickr and other, I guess, things pop up, and something must have clicked in your head that you said, I can do this. Yeah,
I thought like I could leave Tech TV and work on this full time. And I remember, it's funny, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but when you sat down with me at Sushi, you said to me, your app is, you're very on this, you're very Web 2.0. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what the hell is Web 2.0? Like, I remember when you said that. I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
I gotta look that up. Is that on Wikipedia?
Exactly. And then I looked it up later, and it's like there was this, a handful of sites that people were starting to call like Web 2.0.
Right.
Like someone had just coined that term like a few weeks before.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I had no idea
crazy.
What that was.
Yeah. I think Patel might get credit for Web 2.0 or Tim O'Reilly, one of those guys, because they obviously did the conference after that. Or maybe, I think they credit it to somebody else. But anyway, so that obviously that project grew, got very big, raised venture capital for it, and that really became your calling card.
For sure, for years.
For years. And in a way, became bigger than even you. Like it's became such a huge site. I mean, where did it peak at in terms of?
Peaked at about 38 million monthly uniques.
Wow,
is where it was peaking at.
Staggering.
It's insane.
Sort of mind blowing. Was it top 50 site at that peak?
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely top 50 at that point.
And Facebook comes out, like button comes out, Twitter, and now the function that you had in the universe, I guess, of like, this is the place to go find your news, changes a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there was a point where all of a sudden, internally, we're looking at the stats, and we notice like, oh, like someone's starting to eat a little bit.
$10 in the swear jar. Good.
Oh, do you have no cussing rule?
No, you can cuss. It just costs you $10. It goes into the swear jar.
Okay. Diggnation, we get $10 for.
Oh, do you?
No, I'm just kidding. Oh. So basically, we look at the stats and we start to see certain little numbers like digs and certain things happening where people are starting to receive their news in other places. Like, they're starting to. Facebook's starting to eat some of that up. Twitter's starting to eat some of that up. And I think that's when we first started thinking like, wow, we were kind of staying the course and, looking at features and how to improve them and make them better. And there was this iteration thing that we were doing over those 5 some years. And I think that leading up to Digg V4 was the first time where there was pressure to do something entirely different.
Right.
To copy people for the first time. Like to look at the ways of like setting up followers and like all of these things that like, had already been done,
Right.
And so looking back on, that big launch of Digg v4, I wish we would a little bit stayed the course, but tried some different things versus like completely pulling out the rug from everyone and saying, hey, this is something completely new. You need to go and embrace this.
Right. Yeah. You did take some chances there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you did try to reinvent a little bit, and it didn't work.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
There was a handful of things that blew up on us from features to scaling to killing things that the hardcore users enjoyed.
Right. It was always a really a natural good tension between you and the users, you the company, not Kevin Rose, but Digg the company and Digg the community, and the two, I guess, the needs of each and the power that the community had. I mean, at a certain point, you had created, and this is always a testament to, I think, the power of a platform. You created stars, Baby Man, etc.
Right.
I mean, how do you manage the community members becoming more powerful than the company in a way?
It's tough because, there were times where we had certain stories like, when the DVD encryption was broken. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that. Very big deal, yeah.
Basically, there was a story that was, this string of like 20-some characters that was supposedly would break any DVD encryption.
Right.
And we have, the RIAA and like all these attorneys calling us saying they're going to sue us out of existence.
Sure.
I remember I hadn't come into the office yet, and Jay, the CEO, and I'm not faulting him for this, he just made the call to take down the story.
Right.
And we deleted the story, and I got in the office, and they're like, there's a freaking, like, oh, no, maybe I was on a flight. I think I was on a flight. Something where I wasn't at the office, and all of a sudden I get back, and, like, the entire site is on fire. People are creating YouTube songs, like singing the key out loud, saying, take this down, submitting that to Digg.
Right.
Everywhere in the comments, I mean, the entire site was taken over by the users, and there was nothing we could do.
Right.
And when you give we couldn't write a tool fast enough to remove the comments, and like we didn't have those tools.
Yeah. So Digg still chugging along, still making a lot of money.
Yeah, Digg's making like double digits, millions of dollars per year.
Yeah, I heard well over 10 million. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
got 50, 60, 70 employees, something in that range.
No, it's down. It's down to about 30 or so.
Yeah,
something like
so
that.
Then it's a very efficient, probably profitable company. How do you reconcile your baby, your first biggest win, and now still a win, but maybe it's off its peak?
Yeah.
How do you, as an entrepreneur, reconcile that? You didn't get a chance to sell it, obviously. It's a whole nother story, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's...
complicated?
For sure. I think that when you look... There's a couple different things. When you go through this cycle of how you feel about your baby over, a series of months, And initially I was like, pissed that we didn't execute in the right ways.
Sure.
Then you're kind of like there's a little bit of you still have this property that is 30 people are going to work every day and trying to build the next thing that will get the traffic back up and in its place, and there's some exciting things going on there. But at the same time, once I've left and stepped aside from that, I look back on Digg and I think like there's so many different things that I learned from making those mistakes that I carry into new projects and new companies and new people that I'm helping advise, that it's hard to say I would have done things differently, There's certainly a handful of things that, I would know that I was doing them wrong this time around. It's like I feel it's tough. But then again, I look at the internet as a whole, and you look at our window in time as entrepreneurs.
Right.
And everyone has this, they go in cycles. I mean, you know how this is.
Sure.
I mean, MySpace and Tom and everybody, he was the biggest thing on earth, 5 years ago, right?
And then he's a nobody.
Or
a pariah even.
Yeah.
Right? You can live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Right, exactly. And so it's like, you can't get pissed at this kind of stuff. You can't get upset, otherwise it'll just drive you crazy, right? You have to think like, okay, what did I do? Did I somehow push the internet forward? Did I push technology forward?
Right.
And
Steve Jobs, did you move the human race forward?
Right, exactly. And I look at some of the stuff that we did early on at Digg, and I'm extremely proud of it. I think that there's a lot of things that we innovated on that.
There's a lot of things in Facebook that are taken from Digg.
Absolutely.
The whole syndication of buttons.
For sure.
Was your innovation.
The button size, like everything, all about that stuff came out of what we did. And that's, that now that I'm at that point, that place, and I feel comfortable with that. And that makes me happy.
Flipboard, a lot of DNA, and Flipboard is the sort of curation, of, and Twitter even, the information come up there. So Revision 3, of course, another amazing Kevin Rose production. You start Diggnation, it becomes a phenomenon.
Yep.
You do it for 6 goddamn years.
6 years, I know. It's
Holy
crazy.
Christ.
Dude, that's going to be you, watch. And
oh, God, I'm 2 years. Yeah, we're 3 years into this?
Two. Just past 2. Yeah.
Just past 2. We're 200 episodes in. But boy, did that become a phenomenon.
It's been crazy.
I had no idea how big Digg had gotten. I always appreciated it, but...
Until we were in that London.
We were at London FOA, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago.
That was huge.
And
that was crazy.
There were 1,000 people watching the
more
program.
than that.
No, it was about 1,000.
1,500?
London FOA was pretty big. It was one of our bigger ones.
It was 1,000 plus.
Yeah.
And afterwards...
It was like an airplane hangar for people to give a
Yeah,
visual.
but then afterwards at the after party, they had to literally...
that bar, oh my God.
They had to create an area and lock you in it because so many people were hanging over the rails. So many 12-year-old... 15-year-old kids.
Well, it was a bar, so they were a little older than that.
Oh, was it? They looked like they were 15-year-old kids.
I think you can do
I think they
16,
had kids sneaking in. Because I remember when we came.
Legally, I'm not allowed to say that.
You're not allowed to say
that.
that. Listen, I think it's statute of limitations. Anyway, we came. This is the funny story. We came to see it.
Yeah.
And, Carson had to get us in the side door or something. And there were like 4 15-year-old kids who they wouldn't let in. 12-year-old kids. So they have to be a certain age. And so I took them in the back door.
Amazing.
I got Carson. I was like, these poor kids want to see Kevin so bad. Can I take them in? And Carson's like, oh, where's the security guard? He's like, over there. I was like, okay, go talk to the security guard. I just took the kids into this. I remember.
Yeah.
But it became an international phenomenon. I mean, in podcasting, you had to have been the #1 podcast for a while.
I think for a little while, yeah. For sure.
And now, 6 years later...
It's still going strong. That's the sad thing about leaving Diggnation.
Well, why are you turning it off? I mean, is it is it an artistic thing? You feel like it's taking up too much of your psychic energy, too much of your emotions to do it every week?
I think that there's... so the chemistry that Alex and I have, it's a lot of fun. I mean, he's a good buddy, obviously.
Yes.
We couldn't do this if it was any other way.
Absolutely.
And the thing that's tough is that... I feel like there's a couple things that have happened. We're both in slightly different places in our lives, obviously, than where we were 6 years ago. Right. He's getting married. I'm in a very serious relationship. Like, I feel like we're still those guys that want to sit down and have beers and have a good time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just want to make sure that we're not those guys 6 years from now. Like, I feel like we could fall into this trap where all of a sudden I'm like, like our sponsors are like, Viagra and other things. Like instead of
is your prostate enlarged?
Right, exactly. So like,
you don't want it to get sad.
Right. I don't want it to get sad.
Right.
And we're right now, we're doing our last show, and we have 1,200 people coming out to see it. We've sold out. Like we still got it. Every time we do a live show, it always sells out. Right. Like, and I feel
you don't want to play Reno.
There's been a few things like over the last couple of years where we'll laugh our asses off, and then somebody will send in and be like, you guys said the same joke 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh no,
man.
Did we? I can't remember that. And are we repeating ourselves? And I'm just like, let's go out with a bang to where it's not sad. It's still fun.
And you're a performer. I mean, you're a bona fide performer in addition to being an entrepreneur. You're a true talent in that way. And you want to go out on top. You don't want... I understand that.
And I think that the cool thing about doing this now and going out now is that, a couple years from now, if we want to do a reunion show and
people
will come out, they'll have a good time, and we'll definitely do that. It'll be like something we do twice a year, and people will come out and we'll just have lots of beers, have a good old time, and it'll be just this fun thing, Well,
in a way, if you end it on your terms, you can be at peace with it. And if it ends not on your terms, then it just gets weird.
Yeah.
And it's like the clean cut is
the other thing too is Revision 3 for a long time Diggnation was the cash cow for Revision 3.
Yeah.
And
it was Revision 3.
If we would have gone away a couple years ago,
there'd be no Revision 3.
There'd be no Revision 3, but Revision 3 is doing awesome now.
Techzilla.
Oh dude, they've got so many of the top YouTube talent is now under the Rev3 umbrella.
Right.
And they do all the ad sales for them.
Right.
So they're like the outsourced ad
Yeah,
sales.
when you started, there was really no YouTube to speak of. There wasn't like there was a partner program.
Right.
Certainly wasn't the juggernaut it is today. And the idea, podcasting was one idea for how this media might go. And certainly that's a big piece of it, but there's also 3 to 5 minute videos.
Yeah, I mean, like
totally different
Epic
world.
Mealtime, all the ad sale stuff is like all done through Rev3, and those shows are doing 5 million views an episode.
It's amazing the impact
insane.
YouTube has had. So you put, for all intents and purposes, Diggnation to bed this year.
Mm-hmm.
Digg, you've handed off, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to start my next thing, and that's mi.lk.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What's the idea?
So I didn't know I was going to go start another thing right away.
Yeah.
And then I was messing around with a couple different ideas, and Daniel Burka, who was the old creative director at Digg for a long time.
Very talented designer.
Yeah, he's extremely talented.
Did you do the Digg logo?
He did the Digg logo. He did the Digg buttons. He did the original sketches for the Mozilla Firefox icon.
Yeah.
He was a Mozilla designer for a long time.
Yeah.
Just really, really sharp dude. Really good product guy too.
Yeah.
Which is good to find. It's good to find someone that's also strong
design
design and
product.
That's
awesome. It's not just wireframes.
right. And so so he was working with Stuart over on Glitch, and I think that
Stuart Butterfield,
the ex-Flickr
Flickr
founder.
guy,
Yeah. And basically, games really aren't his thing. He had fun working on it for a year, but he was like, I don't want to really do games. And so was looking for something new. And he was getting courted by all kinds of people. And he started looking at some small startups. And I was like, dude, if you're going to do a small startup, let's just get back together and do something fun and do a little incubator of our own ideas. So that's what it is.
And you go, when people find out Kevin wants to do something new, this is not 2004 anymore. You're Kevin Rose. I mean, you're essentially now an elder statesman and a legend in the business.
I don't know about that. But
well, Kevin, I mean, you've got 2 companies out there making over $10 million a year with, a combined, close to whatever, 70, 80 people. Not to mention the angel investing. I mean, you've really built the brand of Kevin Rose over the last 6, 7, 8 years pretty magnificently. You must have gotten huge interest.
Raising money was pretty easy, which was awesome. I was very fortunate to have not only have it be easy, but actually to work with the people I really want to work with, like the investors that I'd worked with, some that I'd worked in the past, others that I had not, and so it was great.
You go to them and say, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something in the mobile space.
Mm-hmm. I had a handful of ideas.
Oh, so you show them like, hey, here's a portfolio of things that might work?
Yeah, basically it was just a conversation, like sitting down like we are, and I was like, hey, I've got this idea. And they're like, well, what are you trying to build? And I was like, well, let me give you 3 different ideas. Here's, this is the one we're going to probably build first, which turned into Oink, and then a couple other ideas, and everyone was like, those sound like a lot of fun. Like, what do I need to do to make this happen?
So you raised a couple $1 million?
1.6 or something like that total.
That's it?
Yeah.
You
Small
could have
team.
raised so much more.
I didn't want to raise that much more, though.
Why not?
I feel like, well, first of all, there's no board right now. I'm the only person on the board, so no board meetings.
Right.
So for people that haven't been through that before, you'll know what I mean once you get a crazy big board. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just it requires preparation every month, and like having been there and done that, I don't need hand-holding in this early stage. I can just go, and if I have a question, I can call somebody up versus having to sit down for a formal board meeting.
I don't want to say soul crushing, but you're on some boards now, I take it? Are you on any boards?
No, on Digg's board.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is not what entrepreneurship's about, is it? Like the board meeting to me feels so unnatural. Like, where did this idea even come from?
Well, it depends on if, like, the thing is, I feel like your investors are also, you're kind of marrying them, right? They're your partners. And if you're a formal monthly board meeting with a whole deck of slides, it's a lot of prep work. It's a couple days prep work ahead of time.
Sometimes a week.
Yeah, and it just takes your team off of, especially when you have a small team, it takes them, off of coding or whatever it may be to run certain queries to get numbers that you wouldn't normally check every single day. And
then what if they're bad? Or sideways?
And then you have to figure out, like, okay, what are we going to
message
here? And it's like, it was nice when at one point at Digg we moved to quarterly board meetings, and that I totally get. That makes sense to me. But like a monthly board meeting is just especially once it grows to your board to 4 and 5 people, it's just a lot of it's work.
Yeah,
it's work that's not directly impacting the product that you're trying to build right now. You know,
in a way, you're like a film director who's saying, "I could do a blockbuster. I could raise the big money. You're Kevin Rose. You could go take $10 million down for a company, but instead you're saying, I just want to make an independent film, and it'll be ready on this date. You can come to the premiere, or I'll have a screening.
Right.
But we're not going to sit here and do like planning for the Avengers or Iron Man 5.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is that we go out and we'll create a couple little independent films. We hope they'll be blockbusters.
Right.
And if they turn into blockbusters, you'll be there front and center when we want to raise a bigger round.
Yep.
And we will formalize a board at that point and all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
But let's not get crazy right off the bat. Let's just play it by ear, and let's just suss out whether these ideas are any good.
You feel pressure being Kevin Rose and having to perform and live up to having had so many hits? Like, is it a little bit of that? Like, are you trying to manage expectation?
It's a little bit of that, but also it's like, I think that there's a bunch of different ideas you can go out and tackle right now in the startup world. Right. Like, there are what I consider to be kind of home run ideas, which are like big swinging for the fences. Yeah, you might strike out, but you're swinging for the fences.
Which are
just big
search, social networking.
Well, just new ideas that haven't yet, like maybe potentially new, a whole new class of product that doesn't exist today. Big broken businesses that you want to go after, like let's say it's like
Airbnb,
Square with banking, or Airbnb, something like that. Go disrupt, just big disruptive ideas, right?
Right.
Then there are the ideas that like, I can go out and make a better calculator app for the iPhone and charge 99 cents for it, or make a better, like another Twitter client. Incremental, like little tweaks. That we're really good at design and UI, and I can go build 1,000 of those apps and make a profitable company tomorrow, but that's not really that exciting, right?
To Kevin Rose.
I just, eventually...
Why do it? Is sort of your idea?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I wanted to go after some of these bigger ideas, but I don't necessarily know what they are. I'm just trying to, like, try little experiments. Oink is the first little experiment to see what happens.
Right.
And if it starts to catch fire, then great. If it doesn't, we'll kill it and move on to something else.
When we get back from the commercial break, I want to get into Oink and talk about that. And also talk about timing, and the non-sale of Digg, because something we sort of just missed so quickly, and I think it's got to be sort of a big part of your story. And who is the second advertiser? Oh, there it is, SurveyMonkey. Have you ever used SurveyMonkey?
I have. Yeah.
It's just so easy. I love it when the guest
I haven't used it in a while, but we did back at Digg a lot.
Yeah, I mean, SurveyMonkey is the best way to make clean and to distribute online surveys. Are you part of the lean startup movement now? I mean, we were lean startup guys because we had to be, but now you hear Eric Ries formalize it. Do you have the same experience I do, which is like, well, yeah, of course that's the way you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that I haven't read the book yet.
Right.
When I looked at the title, I'm like, yeah, well, that's clearly what we're doing now because we have space heaters under our desks because we're freaking cold in the office.
But you're just trying little things out and seeing, iterating.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's formalized the sort of playbook of broke entrepreneurs. It's really actually great stuff. And hey, SurveyMonkey is a great way to implement the lean startup stuff by actually querying your customers and asking them to give you feedback and opinions. The free plan is great. You can ask 10 questions and get 100 responses so you can test it. You can see real-time results. Go to try.surveymonkey.com/twist and try.surveymonkey.com/twist. It's a great product. I use it all the time. In fact, I use it after a lot of the conferences to see what people like. I've done it with different programs. I've actually even built prototypes in it. It's a really great, elegantly designed product that simply works. I have had a SurveyMonkey Pro account for 4 or 5 years. It's just one of those things that I think should be in everybody's toolkit. And just like MailChimp, it's like, oh, what is this, the primate theme going on here? We've got MailChimp and SurveyMonkey in the same. And we got a pig. We got Oink. I mean, it's
That's
like
right.
this is like a farm now.
It's the farm episode.
Exactly. Hey, so just thank you to SurveyMonkey, and you should thank @SurveyMonkey on your Twitter account because independent media like this would not exist without the support of great products like SurveyMonkey. Just go try it. Try.surveymonkey.com/twist. So, Digg, it was famously, I don't know if you can, was it ever public who the people were that were trying to buy it? I mean, Google's name came up over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Was that ever publicly acknowledged by either you or Jay or anybody?
I'm sure it was at some point.
Okay, so let's assume that there was offers for Digg to be sold more towards the peak, and it didn't happen. Why didn't it happen?
That's a great question.
Are you allowed to talk about it now, or is it too close?
I don't know that I can go into a lot of detail there, but
suffice it to say, you would have liked to seen an exit and a home where it could grow, right?
Well, I think that there were a couple attractive things. Like there were issues that we were having with scaling the service.
Sure.
And so
people got to remember this was pre-cloud, really.
Oh, for sure. There was no Amazon EC2
right. So
or any of this.
This was actually technically kind of a feat at the time. That was one of the most complicated technological backends going on at the time.
Yeah, you were one of the first people to use.
It's crazy how easy it is today. Like just with MongoDB and all these other things that exist.
HBase, whatever.
It's like those services are a lot more mature than they used to be. But anyway, so there, there was definitely some very serious negotiations. I think that there was, dispute over how much the company was worth, and when just all came down to the final kind of process of all this stuff with getting a little bit past the term sheet and things like that it just didn't work out for one reason or another and just kind of fell apart.
How do you reconcile it? I mean, as the founder, you wanted to go that direction, I take it, and
I think that there was a lot of things on the table that the combined company, what it would have looked like, and the kind of what we would have done with the property, that was very exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, I would have loved to have seen a Digg that was, getting 50, 100,000 digs an article and things like that.
Right.
But so that was very attractive. It's nice to be independent. I mean, you can definitely move a lot quicker.
Yeah.
I've heard on the flip side of it, seen a bunch of friends' companies get acquired, like Joshua with Delicious.
Yeah.
And it kind of just nothing happens. Nothing changes. You have to port everything over to PHP because they're on PHP, and it's just like it's a lot of these acquisitions that your product just dies.
Sad. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I was torn. It didn't happen, and you just kind of move on.
Yeah, you gotta move on. And so tell me about Oink. I mean, I started playing with the program, but what's the goal? What's the mission? I mean, it's a test, obviously. It's your first little foray, and it's your first app.
Yeah, it's our first app. It's the first time ever doing an iPhone app. And I think that, the idea initially came out of the fact that there are a ton of things that I enjoy every single day in my life that I really didn't have a way to share those with people in a structured way. So, with Instagram, you can go in there and say, oh, beautiful sunset, picture of a burger or something like that. But it kind of just moves down the feed, and it's never really available for you to pull up again.
It's ephemeral. It just goes by.
Right, exactly. And so
Lost.
I remember being at Bar Jules with my girlfriend. It's a great little restaurant here in San Francisco that on Tuesday nights they have an amazing burger. I think it's the best burger in San Francisco. And I was like...
Wait a second. Is it tonight Tuesday?
Is tonight Tuesday? Yeah, it is.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's the best burger in San Francisco. I remember taking a picture of it and posting it on Instagram right when we were starting to think about ideas for Oink. I was like, this needs to exist in this place. I need to be able to vote on this item and say that this is my favorite thing. And anyone that's following me should be able to come in here and try this out and know that I enjoyed it, I loved it.
Right.
It's ranked and rated very highly here. And potentially save that for later, like being able to bookmark something and saying, oh, that looks good, I want to try that when I'm in that neighborhood. Yeah. And there was nothing out there that really did that. And I think that Yelp was very good at saying a place is a very highly rated place. Like this is a 4 out of 5 star rated place.
Sure.
But to get at the meat at what's really good there, meat, burger, but you actually have to read multi-page reviews.
Right.
You have to go into this really long... It's work. Yeah. And so I wanted to say, okay...
Which is fine if you're trying to find a place for your anniversary or you're planning a dinner and you're at your desktop, but maybe not when you're just perusing and looking for incidental serendipity kind of, experiences.
Yeah. And so we wanted to get at, like, what was the best thing here instantly the second you walk into that place.
Yeah.
And so we started messing around with it. And had a little prototype, and we were using it internally, and we're walking around, and then, one of the employees was like, at Disneyland and started ranking, like roller coasters, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's an interesting use case.
Yeah.
Never thought of that before.
Right.
Someone posted a picture of their orthodontist, ranked that, and it's like, well, that's interesting. And it's like, well, gosh, let's just try it. Let's just see what happens, and maybe we can create some really cool structured data here.
So you have shades of Foursquare, Gowalla, like there is places included in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have shades of review sites like Yelp and even a little Digg because there's a counter.
Mm-hmm.
It really does feel like it's got a lot. It feels familiar but unique,
Right.
in that way. The design also really, really well designed for a first app. How long did it take to build?
It took about 6 months to build.
That's it, really?
Yeah, something about that.
Really well done. And I saw
That's with website and backend and all that stuff.
saw yesterday or the day before App of the Week in iTunes.
App of the Week, yeah, and also best of for the travel section for 2011 in iTunes.
Wow, what is it when you become App of the Week? Is that 100,000 downloads or 1 million downloads? What does that equal? Hundreds of thousands, certainly.
It was, it's up there. Yeah, it's definitely. Gosh, I want to say about 100,000 downloads, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And do new users? I mean, I understand people in San Francisco, Foursquare users, Gowalla users, they'll grok it. Is this too complicated for mom and dad and your cousins and brothers and stuff like that?
It's interesting. Well, I think that there's certain pieces of the application that are still too complicated.
Yeah.
Like our submitting a new item is a little confusing. You don't know what you're going through, why you're doing it.
Yeah.
The feed, everyone kind of understands. The voting, people get it. Like, that looks cool. I'm going to heart that up or whatever. There are bits and pieces that we're going to be getting better at. Also, a feature that once people understand and use that they really love is the ranking of items against each other. So a burger inside of Bar Jules versus a burger inside of Zuni Cafe versus a burger at In-N-Out.
Yeah.
And then letting those duke it out just because they're all tagged burger.
Yeah.
So that's a fun feature that a lot of people enjoy, but getting them to that point to understanding that, it's pretty high.
Structuring the data requires more work in terms of for the user to get that benefit.
Absolutely.
And so it's this constant balance, isn't it,
Right.
between how much you burden the user.
Right. And we're working on that. We're figuring out okay, do we allow you to add tags after you've oinked 10 items, like things where you gradually reveal a more sophisticated interface once you've proven that you are comfortable with the application.
Right.
Could be interesting. I don't know. We're playing around.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like I struggle with this every day. I look at the app and I say I love Oink and it's a lot of, it's fun, but I need to dumb this down enough to where, not dumb it down, but just make it
simpler
so that a non-early adopter, non-tech savvy user can jump in right away, right?
And that was sort of the magic of Digg. It was like, you can dig it.
Right.
Dig
it's
get
a button, one click, and
press
it's done.
Yeah.
People got that right away.
Huh. And so, based upon the success of this, I mean, first app out of your brain becomes App of the Week and Best of 2011. I mean, that's pretty high praise, isn't it? I mean, why go on to a second one if you're App of the Week and one of the Best of 2011? Shouldn't you stay focused on this and keep iterating? Are you still thinking you're going to come out with app number 2 or 3?
Yeah, I mean, we have a handful of ideas that we want to explore. That's not to say that we won't double down on something once we have proven that it has the traction that we're looking for.
So,
I mean, I want to see numbers up and to the right. I want to see month-over-month growth. I want to see, that we have some real serious
App of the Week is
here.
not, for you, the benchmark.
App
it's
of the
metrics.
App of the Week is that great shot in the arm where you look and you're like, thank you, Apple. You are awesome.
Apple gods
we're
shined
stoked.
upon us.
We got a bunch of new users. Like our rankings, we got 4.5 out of 5 stars have held up, so we're stoked on that. But I want to see this. There's a difference between, how it is. You launch something, you go through the press spike. This is the App of the Week spike. There's always that drop back down.
Trough of sorrow.
And you figure out who are your core users,
right.
and are they sticking with you, and are you growing from there, right? You need to hit that bottom, and then you grow from there.
Right.
So
it's pretty tough, that bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you get back down to really who your base is.
Right.
You start off and you say, okay, my base pre-App of the Week was 25,000 users a day. Now, what's it going to be post? Maybe 40,000.
Right.
maybe 30. Like, how many really did we pick up here? You know?
And then
because it's not hard. I mean, when you get a big press hit like that, people will install it and check it out, right? The question is, can you get them coming back a second and third and, you know, a 10th, a 20th? Like, are they going to stick with it and how long, you know? So those are numbers we're looking at, and I don't think that we've quite gotten to the point to where we say, okay, now it's time to build an Android app. Now it's time to double down on this, that kind of thing.
Interesting. And so how have things changed now from when you started being a product guy in the Digg days? You know, it is a much different world.
Yeah.
How is it different for you as an entrepreneur?
It's a lot. Well, it's harder in some ways and easier in others. I would say that if you're building a web app, it's a lot easier. If you're scaling a web app, it's a lot easier.
Scale is not an issue anymore.
It's not an issue anymore. You got like Heroku and like all these other services where it's just like plug in and you're done. You know, it's
scale
not,
away.
I mean, it is an issue if you have a Twitter or a Facebook or something like that, right? But
edge case.
I mean, at that point, you're
going to be flush with venture money to solve that problem.
You'll solve
you can
that problem.
throw money at it.
Right. The other thing is, but if you're building an app, you know, I expected to have this app out in 3 months. It took 6.
Yeah.
And it's just not quite as quick.
Heard the same thing from Dave Moran. That he felt like he was running so fast on the web and then went into the oatmeal field of app development. Mm-hmm. And that the cycle of iteration is not days, it's weeks or months.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I want something moved around and changed. I want this to the performance on this page to speed up a little bit. And you're talking, you know, hardcore engineers getting in at Objective-C levels and going in and doing really hardcore things that C allows you to do. But it's not like
move this pixel on the web and hit the refresh key.
It's not like CSS where you're just formatting the page up and everything's flying fine because browsers are fast and everyone's happy. Yeah. You know, it's not that world at all.
What are the advantages though to doing apps? I mean, it's such a less crowded space, isn't it?
Well, you know, there's...
Or is there an advantage to doing apps versus native web? It's becoming a religious debate now. You know, should people just go to their browser and have an HTML5 experience, or should we be wasting our time with Objective-C and making these apps?
You know how I think this is just another little mini computer, right? And it's like, do you want to be on the mini computer? And is your app like, does it play well on this platform? I mean, if you look at, gosh, I think, what was it, Pandora, that was just kind of like falling apart, and then all of a sudden the iPhone came out and they launched on the iPhone and all of a sudden just exploded because that was the platform of consumption that made sense. Yeah. I have my device, I want to listen to music, and I plug it in and I just go, you know? It's like, does the strengths of your app play to this? Of course, with local and location and voting on items and places and having to use the camera and all that functionality. A lot of that stuff really wouldn't work in HTML5, so we have to have native app stuff, you know, filters and all that other extra stuff. So we had to build it for this, but that's not to say that some of our other ideas are not going to be web apps.
Right.
Because there's one in particular that I don't want to talk about today, so please don't pressure me.
I won't.
But it's definitely all web. So
you're afraid I'll actually get it out of you?
Well, you're
that excited about it?
Yeah, I think it could be pretty awesome. So we'll wait and see.
Wow.
What farm animal does it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Will it be ready March 7th or 8th? And will you launch it on stage? Will you launch it on stage March 7th or 8th at the launch conference and give your guy team a date?
I don't think we'll be ready in
70, 80 days, not enough. As an entrepreneur, you've had the ups, you've had the downs, and a really amazing career in just such a short period of time. A lot of entrepreneurs listen to the program. Obviously, that's the point of it. Mm-hmm. What's your advice to young people starting today? You know, what really makes people succeed in the space today?
Well, I would think that the biggest hurdle that I find that people are always coming up to me and they say like, "Hey, I've got this great idea. I want to tell you about it," and they're always looking for validation from someone else before they actually just go out and build the actual idea. I remember I tried to do the same thing with Digg. I had the idea on paper. My roommate at the time, this guy Scott, he's the one that turned me on to Delicious. And so he was really a little bit more hip to the cool stuff than I was. Yeah. And I was like, dude, if you like delicious, what do you think about this? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I just, And I was kind of like, for a moment there, I was like, gosh, man, that sucks. I thought this was going to be really cool. And I was like, you know what? My gut is telling me that this is going to be awesome. You really have to trust your gut and just go with that initial instinct and go out and build it no matter what anyone else is telling you.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you got to be ready for war. And war means, Pepto-Bismol tablets in your pocket. Like there's a lot of stress that goes along with building a company and dealing with the headaches that come with, upset engineers and, a pissed off person because something's going on at home, but it's not, you're having to deal with it in the workplace. And, it's just like there's you have to really make sure that you're cut out. Like if you're going in, you got to go all in. It's none of this like just kind of stepping around these issues. You have to be.
You're going to war.
You're going to war.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be lonely. There's going to be nights you're going to wake up in a cold sweat.
Yep.
You're going to have self-doubt. Your stomach is going to be turning.
Yep.
And then moments of absolute joy and elation where you feel like you could do anything.
Yeah, and your girlfriend's going to be wanting you to come home because you haven't had dinner with her all this week, and you're going through. You're not going to call your parents back when you wish you could have spent more time with them, and you cut your vacation short, and it's just like, dude, it's do it in your early 20s.
It really is a young man's game, a young person's game.
I just don't know that having been through all this, it's how many more startups do you have in you?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I always tell people this is the last one, and then people say they don't believe it. But, you look at how tempting and the early success guys like us have had at angel investing, and you understand why people say, you know what, I'm done. I just want to go invest money and not work 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day. It is brutal. Mm-hmm. But then even you couldn't take time off.
I know.
And you're independently wealthy. I mean, you're not Zuckerberg, but you've done okay. You don't need to work ever again in your life, but you got drawn back into it.
I know. It's crazy.
So it's a sickness.
It's a sickness.
It's a degenerate sickness, like gambling or drug addiction.
The problem is, like, I think
what's wrong with us?
It's one of these things where.
Well, it's like you said, he was sitting at that place and he feels like, I want this app. And no one else is working on it.
That's it. You're sitting there, like, I'll give you an example. So I was hanging out with Ev Williams from, obviously Blogger and Twitter and all that stuff.
Obvious Corporation,
this last weekend.
Yeah.
And
And there's a guy who does not need to work.
Definitely doesn't need to work.
You
and I need to work a lot.
Yeah, we probably. Yes.
Yeah.
We're not getting a jet anytime soon.
Right.
We can bum a ride, but we're not the ride.
Right, exactly.
Right.
We might chip in on the gas, but we're not the
That's about
ride.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I'm sitting down talking to him, and I'm like, hey, what are you working on, blah, blah, blah. And he's just telling me some of the stuff, and I'm getting excited.
Right.
Just listening to him talk about some of these ideas.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, damn, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm like, get antsy. And you find yourself like having to stand up and like walk around. And you're like, all of a sudden you can't sit still. And if you have that as a person,
that electricity,
that's that entrepreneurial kind of bug,
Right.
It's hard to sit on the sidelines. It's like Brett Favre or any of these pro.
You want to be in the game.
You want to be in the game, and they play until they can't play anymore. And
right.
And you see these pictures of their body, and they're all bruised up, and they got to be hurting, but they pop.
No cartilage left.
And they go back in.
No, give me the Vikings. I'm in, coach.
Totally.
I got one more season.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's our pro,
But you know what? Some of the old guys can still do it. I mean, look at Pincus. He's in his 40s.
Yeah.
He's not stopping.
I think that there's certain people that have a different. So I would say there's different levels of entrepreneur, right?
Right.
Like for me, I don't have, I'm not the. Obama, he gets up in the morning, he puts on a suit, he flies, he does a speech, he flies to another place, he does a speech, he grabs a bite to eat, he calls his wife, he deals with however many other pressing issues are at that moment.
Yeah.
He goes to bed, he wakes up and does it all over again.
Right.
I don't have the stomach for that.
Right.
I can't do that. There was a point at Digg where I was getting those little heart palpitations and weird stuff. I'm sure a bunch of us have run into that kind of stuff.
Tingling leg, heart palpitations is also known as a heart attack. Man, it's the panic attack. You take it all so goddamn seriously.
Right.
And you think there's so much at stake.
Right.
And you have so much responsibility. I asked Dave Marin on the show we taped earlier today, what was it like when Path failed? 1.0 was terrible, and people panned it. I loved it. Some people had an affinity for it, but it was widely panned. He said he was distraught, but he felt a sense of responsibility. It was his, responsibility to the investors, to the employees, to himself to make it work.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have had that with some of these companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard because you try and you try again, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and that's just what you got to live with.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to be ashamed by that at all. Like, I feel that,
people want to believe you shouldn't feel that stress, or...
Well, I feel that, like, even how, no matter how dumb the idea, some of these entrepreneurs, like, they fail and they say, like, well, I might do another thing. I might go back to working for the man, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know what? I look at that as like a badge of honor. It's like you went out there and you tried something.
Got your ass kicked.
You got your ass kicked, but
and
you know what?
You got back up.
You know how many people don't do that? You know how many people are sitting there working?
Sit on the bench.
Yeah, and they sit on the bench and they just complain about how bad their job sucks.
What time are we going to get off? Let's take a lunch.
I don't know, man. I like the idea of, I think failing's okay. Like,
yeah.
The Jobs book is just, you got
the roadmap of sort of
his life
failure.
And the trials and tribulations he went through.
There is a seriousness to this issue, though, of founder stress.
Oh, absolutely.
And
that's why I stopped drinking sodas and avoiding.
Right, eating healthier.
Yeah, you have
the tea. You got to eat the vegetables.
Something's got to balance out the beer.
Yeah, and you also have to balance out the stress. And I don't know the particulars of everything with the Dysphoria kid who killed himself, tragic as it was, but there was speculation this was
stress-induced.
Stress-induced from the failure or the perceived failure of the platform. I think some of these young entrepreneurs need to realize you have a career, and certainly we're proof of that. You're going to get judged on your body of work, and you're going to judge yourself on a body of work, not one project.
For sure.
Kevin Rose is Digg, Revision 3, mi.lk, Oink, and countless other projects yet to be launched. You're going to get judged on the arc of the career, not the one project. So, I mean, if you're an entrepreneur listening to this and you feel those shakes and those palpitations, you can't take it. It's a signal to take it important, but is it not? At the end of the day, not that important.
Yeah, it's hard because, the Zen part of you wants to always believe that and know that. And the waking up, in the middle of the night in cold sweats part of you is like, what is my body doing to me? Why is my subconscious? Like, part of it we take and we think we can understand. The other part is the gray hairs coming over our head and the weird things that happen to our body and the eye twitches randomly and all that other stuff where... you thought you dealt with it, but you didn't. Something took subconsciously, and there's internal turmoil and things like that. So it's not easy stuff.
Man, it's just that you have to have that balance.
You have to have that balance.
It's not easy. It is definitely like human beings and their neural systems were not designed for what kind of stress we put them under. The modern stress, like. Our bodies were like, oh, there's a lion. It's stress. Run like hell or you die. But then it's over.
Right.
And we've put ourselves, especially as entrepreneurs, under this nonstop, competitive, constant stress. You're going to fail. It could be all over. It's going to be on TechCrunch. You crash landed. Da, 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 da. I mean, it's an unnatural amount of stress.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's not easy to cope with that stuff,
Yeah. How do you cope with that? You take breaks, you drink a little wine, you go out with your girl, you cook some food, what?
I mean, I think that definitely the wine breaks are nice. I don't really. I need to do a better job, to be honest. I don't
Me too.
I wish I could say I'm not stressed, but I still am. And it still gets at me. It's funny. I was talking to... Everyone has this problem, though. I was talking to Tim Ferriss the other day. I went and had lunch with him.
Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour workweek guy who does it. Yeah, Tim.
And even he's stressed.
Wait a sec. He's working 4 hours a week. And he makes millions of dollars off those goddamn books and doesn't need to work.
Well, but the funny thing is, like,
he's got to write the next book.
He's working on his next book.
Right.
And I'm like, how's it going? And he's like, I want this to be the best book ever. And he's stressing himself out. And he's stressing himself out.
You know what? And then with this goddamn conference, I do it to myself every year. TechCrunch 50, launch. I feel like I have to put on a great show. And the 2 or 3 months before the show, I get crazy.
2 months?
Whatever,
like,
3
you're crazy
months.
right now.
I want it to be good. Who's going to be on stage? We're going to have enough people. No, is anybody going to show up? Are the judges going to say yes? No. You get obsessive.
Yeah.
There's no solution to it, is there?
Well, see, the funny thing is...
our new sponsor, Xanax.
Yeah, that's right.
Who wants to do that? I don't. Then if you do that,
When do you stop though? Will you ever stop? Is there a number in your head? Like everyone talks about, like, oh,
it's not for money for me. I gotta be honest.
Because you can retire now easily.
I got enough money. Yeah. Listen, I'll tell you for me what it's about. Since we're getting to the honest phase, and you and I feel like because we were competitive a little bit at one point, but I feel like we're soulmates. And like it's like a certain kismet between us as entrepreneurs. Even though I'm a little older than you, because we both have had the ups and downs. We both have operated in the same spaces, and there's a lot of shared experience with us, in terms of timing. Propeller and yeah, exactly. When I did Netscape and stuff like that.
I just love giving you.
Wow,
that's another $10. But it was worth it.
That had to have been a slightly stressful moment, though, right?
When he was coming after me. Oh yeah.
Well, because a lot of people don't know this. So Digg was the hot. There's a certain and
$10. You got to pay him.
Oh yeah, sure. No, this worth it. This story's gonna be worth it. So you had one of the most vibrant, fervorous communities ever online at that time, right?
Yeah.
Prior to that, that community was like, people were doing it 8 hours a day, if not more.
The hardcore
guys
were
doing all day. They were at work.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Babyman was a sound engineer or something at work, just every 10 minutes checking in on Digg.
Yep.
Still. So that's, and I don't know if anyone's done that yet, other than like World of Warcraft.
All right, bring it around, Tyler.
So, let me know if I got this wrong. But Jason decides, I want to hire those people.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you the story. So
I'm gonna start paying those people money.
Yeah, $1,500 a month, something like
so
that.
So what goes through your mind? And by the way, you've taken this cool as a cucumber, I have to say.
Let me explain
the story.
Props
to Kevin Rose.
Let me explain the story.
But before you tell the story, Kevin could have very easy been like, F that Calicanis guy taking my community.
I think he was a little bit.
I did on Diggnation a couple times.
He did on Diggnation. I tweaked him.
But long story short, really, he took it quite well, I have to say, because many other people would have been like written you off forever.
I thought I could do a better Digg at one point. I thought that there was the same way you see a flaw in Facebook with Oink and you think, oh, I can make it better, or you saw Delicious and said it could be better. I looked at Digg and said, there's no top-level curation. And I came as an editor and a writer, and I said, there should be somebody on the top saying, this is spam, this isn't, or whatever. Just some level top. And you believe there shouldn't be, and I believe there was. And I said, well, I should go try to build this. And the Netscape people, the AOL people were like, Netscape is floundering. It's got 5 million uniques in a browser. You want it. And I was like, oh, I have an idea, actually. And I told them to buy Netscape, but it wasn't for buy Digg. Wasn't for sale. And I told John Miller, buy it. And I told them to offer $50 million. I don't know if that ever materialized.
I think they contacted us at one point, but I don't remember.
And I was trying to lobby AOL to buy it. But I said, let's try building something. But it was a knockoff. But I tried to put my 10% on top of it, 20%. But it was a little aggressive for me to try to hire those guys.
It was. I remember that morning I found out that you were trying to hire those guys, and I was just like, that mother effer.
Yeah.
I was like, he's gonna pay these people, and I'm like, oh man.
Well, that was
supposed to be doing it for like the good of the community, not to get paid. Like I was trying to eliminate all the paid stuff that was happening behind the scenes, because you got to remember, a lot of these top users,
they were getting grabbed.
They were getting a little bit of money on the side.
Grease.
Yeah.
A little grease from certain.
And it's funny because it was really hard to stop, because they would submit 50 amazing articles, and they would take payment for one or two, and then do another 50 amazing articles.
Both of us, I think, had reasonable positions. I'm trying to get my recollection, but mine was, well, I professionalized blogging, and I paid those people, and it was, whatever. But I do think that there was, the thing I learned from that was paying people off is it does ruin it in some ways. So there's like this is really delicate balance between professionalizing something, like professionalizing blogging and paying people, but then taking a community and then paying them and ruining their authentic love of what they were doing.
Well, then the rest of the community doesn't feel the same ownership. They feel like these certain people got
but
paid,
anointed.
And
how you balance
it's
that?
It's tough. Yeah,
but I did tweak them. I
stole a few.
I got a bunch of them. Yeah, I think we got out of the top 25. I think we got like 10 or something. Wasn't all of them, but we got, and they still participated in Digg. It wasn't like exclusive. But at that time, I was a kind of aggressive guy. I think I was a different entrepreneur. I felt like.
But here's the thing: if that had happened to you, if somebody had done this to you,
Kevin stuck. I mean, Kevin fought it, and he made me look really bad. I mean,
but he's still sitting here today. You wouldn't be sitting on that person's show
that's not true
10 years later.
That's not true.
I don't think you would.
I don't think that's true. I'm sure Mike Arrington will be booked for the show any week now. No, I don't think that's true.
We'll know when Mike is on the show.
The thing about this, though, I gotta say, throughout this whole thing, is I knew you were never like it was business.
It was business, yes.
I never thought for a second, oh, Jason hates me and he's trying to be like. It wasn't like
I respected you.
You were just trying to, you had approached me with some of these ideas. I didn't want to build them, and then you basically said, "Well, I'm going to go do it."
Right, I'm going to try.
And you tried, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I'll tell you the big miscalculation I made, which was I was the underdog, and I had no idea that once you were inside of AOL and you had all that firepower behind you, that I looked like a bully going after Digg.
So were people at AOL mad at you for
No. People at AOL were thrilled that they had done something innovative with Netscape. And actually, the crazy thing about it was it worked. If they had just listened to me and stayed the course, it was working because what they basically did was a better version of Yahoo News that had comments under it. It was the Huffington Post before that. If you had an editor take the best of Digg and just pin a couple stories on the top and then have the community have the second section, which is what we did, it becomes the Huffington Post.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Or a hybrid of such. So for something that had 5 million uniques coming to it already, like Netscape, all these people who were Republicans were having 400, 500 word comment, flame wars. The traffic, which was going like this, all of a sudden stabilized. And it was the testament to your model that model engages people.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see their story go up. It's incredibly powerful as a device.
Sure.
So it worked, and then they were just like, oh, let's change the name of it and direct. I think what happened was they said, we make $55 RPM on the AOL homepage, point those 5 million people to the AOL homepage, and we'll monetize better. So they were like, give it up. And I was gone by then. It was a little bit of an aggressive move. I had an aggressive handbook in the beginning, which was fight up, and try to engage somebody. So I did it with you, and I did it with Jimmy Wales with Wikipedia,
mm-hmm.
and I guess who did I do it with? I hadn't done it with Nick Denton, but I sort of have left that technique behind.
It's tough to overthrow someone that's so set. Like how would I go and overthrow Wikipedia today?
Yeah, you can't today. I think one of the lessons now of the last X number of years is that if something hits critical mass, it cannot be stopped even with mistakes. So Yahoo has 10 years of mismanagement and mistakes, and it's still this huge important property
mm-hmm.
that the entire valley's fighting over. Digg makes a mistake or two.
So this raises a great question.
And Digg is still incredibly viable
Kevin
concern.
would do with Yahoo, actually.
What would Evan Williams do?
No, what would Kevin do?
Oh, yes.
Is this something you're asking everyone?
No.
Yeah.
No, no pressure.
No, we haven't actually.
No.
What I would
you
do
do
with Yahoo?
Yeah, Kevin Rose is the CEO of Yahoo.
What properties are on Yahoo right now?
Well, they still have Flickr somewhere over here, but they have Yahoo Finance, Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Mail.
I like their acquisition of Sportacular. I thought that was smart.
What is Sportacular?
It was the top sports app on the iPhone.
So you think just take the whole goddamn thing mobile content and services?
No, I mean I don't think take it all mobile. I just would have to seriously evaluate one property at a time.
Yeah.
It's like they have so many pieces.
That's the problem. It's a huge menu,
and nothing is sexy anymore. Like, would you ever go sign up for a Yahoo Mail account? No one's ever going to do it. Why would you wouldn't even consider it, right?
No, it's
this
terrible.
is the same problem I had with AOL. Like, I feel like all the stuff, all the pieces of that they have at the property are like they're just trying. They need to. Well, this you can never do this with publicly traded companies, but you need to cut out a bunch of the revenue, and like forego the big ass overtaking like banner ads on the mail experience, and just like go for innovation and simplicity and cleanliness, and make it like. Actually innovate again in that space, right?
Yeah. It's so
like
hard
how would you
to
ever overtake Gmail? You'd have to create something. I know what I would do, actually.
If you overtake, wait a second.
No, we saw something today that could.
Oh well, that's different. Yeah, let's not talk about that. That's an angel investment. Yeah, what would you do? I guess maybe. What would you do, Kevin? Is it too good? You don't want to say it now? You just had a good startup idea?
No. I've seen a handful of. Gosh, what's that? Sparrow on the.
Sparrow's great. Yep. Yeah, I use it. It's fantastic.
I like where his vision is headed. It's more about the person and the conversation with that person, and kind of bringing that to the forefront more than it is about the incoming emails and
like a little CRM.
To switch
it from person centric, from I don't know, envelope centric.
Yeah, and
it's like here's a stack of envelopes as opposed to here's all your people and the envelopes.
He'd be a great person to have on the show because like his vision for where mail is going, I think is I can get behind it.
Yeah,
and so I think that I would take some of their top properties and figure out how can you take them to that level? How can you take them to they can't be you can't just reskin Flickr and expect it to be the next Instagram, right? So
interesting. You need to have constant product innovation. And the problem with Yahoo is all these assets have been put together over multiple regimes, and
it feels like an ad farm to me. A lot of it feels like an ad farm. Like you come in, there's just ads all over the place, and
that's what it is. And you know what? Then you start playing on your heels because you're so desperate to make money that to keep the you're under pressure from the public shareholders. You got to play on your heels. You got to put more ads on. The product degrades, and then you have people like Google or Facebook making so much money over here that they can do these other things for free and ad free.
Right.
They just Google Office for Microsoft or Gmail.
Yeah, I mean you could never go into Yahoo and say, you know what, I'm going to completely revamp mail and I'm going to take the ads off of these 10 pages and, sure, we're going to lose $100 million this year in ad revenue, but it's okay because we're making a better product.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that just
would not fly.
Yeah, it would not fly.
Yeah. Yahoo and AOL, all these kind of companies, they basically have to put product people in charge, and they have to be willing to take a short-term hit. That's why going private is a great idea for Yahoo. If they could make it private and say, listen, okay, it doesn't matter if we make $8 billion in profits or $7 billion in profits. Let's go $7 billion, but let's build $20 billion in value on top of it.
Right.
And that takes cojones and leadership and product vision, and I don't know. They don't put guys like us in charge of big things.
Why is that?
I don't know. They will. I predict 10 years from now, like guys like us, they'll be calling us, being like, "Hey, you want to take over this thing?" And but I think it's because they
call me up when you take over Yahoo.
Ugh, no, I wouldn't. It's like
I'd go in with you. We could do some crazy.
You and I went into Yahoo. Awesome. That would be. Well, the thing is, if they put like us in charge, if the two of us went into Yahoo and started, it would draw talent in. Because people would say like, "Oh, those guys are product guys. They're gonna try to do something interesting. They wouldn't be there otherwise."
Right.
And it would recharge the people. But how recharged are you as a Yahoo line worker?
If that happens,
when Carol Bartz shows up,
I hope they got a TV show.
Like
comes
Carol
out
Bartz or Tim Armstrong show up. Who's excited? People are like, "Oh, a sales guy showed up." No, this is no diss to Tim Armstrong, but if a sales guy shows up, the sales side of the business they're stoked.
Right.
The product guys are like, "Oh." And then Carol Bartz shows up, operations person. The product guys are like, "Oh God, she's going to start cutting," and people have to write bigger documents. It's just every company's succeeding. Zuckerberg, Sheryl Sandberg, Larry Page, whoever. I don't know who's his Sheryl Sandberg, but
focus has to be on product.
Look what happened to Microsoft.
I mean, think how much money Facebook and Google could both make by putting a big, huge ad on the front page of their site.
Right. Huge.
I mean, huge.
Huge.
It would be insane. But they won't do it because they're product-centric CEOs that want to stay focused on,
And they don't, it would be so short-term. Well, YouTube has. The Google people have put YouTube under a lot of pressure to make money, I think, because of the acquisition price. But
right.
I guess the users don't care if there's a big honking trailer on the homepage. It doesn't feel so out of context, I guess.
That's true. YouTube is the one Google property that feels like it's gotten.
Holy
that was while Chad was there because he was the product guy.
No. That whole marquee advertising thing came post Google. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, that's a very expensive asset to maintain.
The amount of bandwidth and and disk space. I don't know how they do it. Now I know why they take 45% of the revenue, not like 30 or whatever. Like you think it would be 70-30. It's like they have a pretty good argument when they say like we need to take a little bit more than 30. They take 45, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And the reason is we're giving you free bandwidth.
Right.
And storage forever.
People forget how much that actually costs. Like Revision 3 pays insane bandwidth fees every month for the podcast.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. Hey, this has been an amazing episode of This Week in Startups. Kevin, you are an amazing guest. We could talk for hours. Really, congratulations on the next adventure. I really love the way you're doing it with the small angel round and iterating. I'm sure, I'm fairly certain you may not even get to the second app. I think Oink is I think Oink might be it.
We'll see.
You might be one and done.
Dude, come out here more often. Why are you not in San Francisco in the Bay Area more often?
It's interesting you mentioned that. I spent the full week here this week.
Are you moving out here then? Another little vacation home, if you will?
Well, we'll see what happens. I was, truth be told, I did look at houses on Saturday.
Are you serious?
I spent the day in Noe Valley looking at houses.
No-y.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know
that's
where.
Babyville.
Well, I have a baby. I have a 2-year-old. I got London,
okay.
so.
Never mind.
But maybe. I don't know.
Where
do you live,
You're
Mission?
a baller, though, with like.
Yeah.
You need a little bit more of
Pack
a.
Heights?
No.
No, it's
well,
too
Pack
baller.
Heights good. I mean, I like Potrero Hill. It's a little quiet, but it's warm over there, so it's more like
That's where
Southern
you're
California. Yeah, I just got a place out there. Yeah.
So where is that exactly? That's below Noe or east of Noe?
You know where the ballpark is?
Yeah.
Like a little bit further down south on that hill there.
16th up on the hill.
So you can get to the Mission in 10 minutes?
Oh, less than that. Yeah, 5 minutes.
Just down the hill from
I'm
16th.
going to spend 2 weeks here in January. So it's 1 week this month, 2 months
just
in
come
January.
check out my house, dude. I'm
I'll
moving
come
in
down.
January 1st. So
Really?
Perfect time. Yeah, come check it out.
Nice. Can't wait. Hey, thank you to MailChimp. Thank you to SurveyMonkey for really making this all possible. We couldn't do the show without you guys. There's 8 people working on this weekend, and it's not easy to book all these great guests and have all these, this great production value and everything. It costs money, and it wouldn't be possible without SurveyMonkey and MailChimp. These are 2 great products that I use, and you should thank them on Twitter. Say thank you at SurveyMonkey, thank you at MailChimp. Everybody go follow MiLK at MiLK. Hey, that was difficult. And follow at Oink. Everybody download Oink and check it out. And if you are a world-class developer, you hiring?
Yes, back in engineer right now.
There you go, back in engineer. If you're a world-class developer, I can think of very, very... I can't think of anybody, actually, who would be a better person to go work for, especially if you're starting your career out. You could probably email Kevin at MiLK. Are you milk.com, or what is your Get Milk? What do you Milk app? What's your best email?
mi.lk is the place to go to, and we have contact form and all that stuff on there.
So go to mi.lk, and hey, go work for Kevin. That would be... You mentor a lot of young guys when they come into the Valley, like developers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, different startups and stuff. There's always, like, you go to these mentorship camps and things like that, and there's a bunch of people you meet and hang out with. And
Last angel investment?
I think Fab.
Oh, you did Fab?
Yeah, Fab.
I almost did that. I'm such an idiot. They asked me to do it when it was a gay social network, and I was like, really like Jason, and then he changed to doing this sample sales, and I was like, what happened to the gay social network? I really like that. And then he did Fab, and I was like, I don't get that. And then he closed, and now it's crushing.
It's insane, yeah. Actually, Yardsale was my most recent.
Oh, yeah, Yardsale. That's like take a picture of something and put it on sale.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, that's pretty tight.
It's
Is that
actually,
Y Combinator?
it's been working out pretty well. I don't know. I think they did come out of Y Combinator.
Yeah. Zarly is the other one doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I have this on my desk right now. I don't want anymore. Take a picture.
Yeah, it's cool. I've sold several things on there, and it's so much easier. I just hate shipping stuff with eBay.
Yo, eBay
and so the second I
Craigslist,
used it and it actually worked, I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if this blows up, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, definitely. And Backyard is the name?
Yard
Sale.
Yeah.
What a great name.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Everybody check that out, too. We'll see you next time. Thank you, CNET, for letting us use the studio. See you next time on This Week in Startups. Thanks, Tyler.